The people you're looking for are people who have three characteristics. They have to have some knowledge, they have to be able to do things, and they have to have the right attitudes. We tend to summarize that as knowing, doing, and being. And if you look about it from a firm's point of view, you can give them some knowledge, you can give them a lot about how to do things, but what you really need to have is people with the right attitude to start with. You know, if you think about it, what can you give people if you send them through a higher university education? You can give them a lot of knowledge, so you have the knowing bit sorted. You may be able to give them a tiny bit of the being, depending on how you work it, and you may occasionally, if you're lucky, impair a bit of the you know, what type of person and attitude you are. But if you come out to a firm, in order to be fit for purpose as an employee, you need to know a lot about how to do things in practice, and that's not something you get overnight. Somebody needs to take you through that journey, and that is basically apprenticeship, whether you call it that formally or informally. And apprentices are a core component of any manufacturing industry in order to be able to move from senior people to more junior people, the practical skill of how to execute the tasks you need to execute. Well, I think the issue you have to reflect on is, why do you pick an apprenticeship in the first place? And normally you pick an apprenticeship because they have the right attitude. And that means that if you give them the knowledge, whatever little bit they may be missing that, and you give them a lot about the doing, what you have is a fantastic future employee. And fantastic future employees are the people who form the basis on which you pick fantastic future managers. So I think the way to think about this is somebody with a great future, because otherwise you had not made them into an apprenticeship in the first place. Given your geographical location and given that travel and access to your end customers and consumers, you know, 20 years ago was quite difficult and quite expensive, I would assume that the frequency by which you normally met your customers if you were exporting was very low. You know, and that meant that you were not necessarily up to speed on exactly what they wanted and what they needed and what their world was like. In today's world, you know, distance is no longer that much of an issue. You can communicate with your customer, be that by email or be that by Facebook or be that on video link in this area. You can actually travel. Travel has been substantially cheaper than it was before over the last 10 years or so. And that means that there is no longer an excuse not to know what your customer's world looks like. And that means that I do believe that a lot of your successful firms have taken this opportunity to become closer to their customers. And those who don't will probably struggle a bit. Well, behavioral science and psychology is always important, about understanding how we as human beings behave and react. And in a sense, you're looking at several knowledge domains that need to be deployed in any business. Yes, you know, we may have a bit of an engineering focus in the actual physical activity level that we do, but when we come up to understanding what drives somebody to interact with us, we need to understand that area. We need to understand what builds trust. We need to understand how people value things, so that we can ensure that we have that trust building capability and ability, that we are able to put together a package that they value. And a lot of that is about understanding behaviors and psychology and how we operate as human beings, the way our brain works.